Welcome in. Thank you for stopping by the channel again. We talk about all things real estate, credit, personal finance, anything that can put money in your pocket. But right now we got a hot topic, right? And it's been about 2 weeks. It's been a lot of things going on. If you're from Dallas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's been the death and the murder of Mo3, right? Which has done damage to the community as far as what's going on, as far as a lot of murders. And I know this is nothing we typically talk about, but I gotta come to you and I gotta talk about it because essentially what it is, it's turned Dallas into almost a war zone, right? If you look at the amount of murders from this year to last year, you're gonna see a ton of it increase. You're gonna see a ton of increase with those particular murders from this year to last year, and it's not really doing the community, the city of Dallas, any justice. So one thing I talked about is in a previous video, you can check the thumbnail up here, but I talked about buying rentals in rough areas. Now, the city of Dallas has been notorious for appreciation. I'm not saying notorious like it's a bad thing. No, it's been a great thing. The city of Dallas has appreciated like crazy since 2008 market. Essentially everything in Dallas has doubled in those 10 to 12 years since the crash happened. And we've been benefiting a lot from it. But one thing that I talked about is that you want to be in an area where you have low crime, right? Low crime and high income, or low crime, good school districts, right? And then on vice versa, you don't want to really own anything. Even though in Dallas it will appreciate, you necessarily don't want to own anything that has high crime, low income, right? That's a recipe for disaster in real estate. So right now what we're seeing a war zone right there in South Dallas, Oak Cliff area, that's happening, where you're seeing a ton of deaths, people are afraid to walk outside, people are afraid to live their life, right? Because this spike of violence that's been happening, and it's going to affect you one way or another, right? If you live in Dallas, if you own a house in South Dallas, it's probably going to be tougher to get showings now in that particular area because of what's going on around it, right? That's one thing that you got to watch out for moving forward with real estate, and actually buying and holding real estate. Is very important that you understand this. We're looking for low crime and good school districts. Vice versa, we don't want to see any war zones. That's bad for real estate. So for instance, you're doing marketing and you happen to have some sellers, because people buy a ton of homes in South Dallas because they're affordable, one of the more affordable areas in Dallas. But if you're going out there and you're buying some real estate, make sure you have a different type of extra strategy. You can still do a buy and hold, but you don't want to do a buy and own type of hold. So what I'm talking about is owner finance. You gotta use owner finance. Whenever we go into a war zone area, it's only two type of properties, right? Two type of extra strategies on those properties. It's not a fix and flip, not for me at least. I'm not fixing and flipping it. Or it's maybe an assignment, right? Assignment, meaning we're just gonna wholesale it to the next end buyer, or it's going to be an owner finance. If we're going to buy and hold it, we gotta owner finance these particular properties out. And the reason why is because there's so much crime in there. You don't want to be responsible if the roof starts leaking. You don't want to be responsible if the tenant's not paying. You don't want to be responsible if there's a drive-by shooting. And believe it or not, I've owned a house that's been in the middle of a drive-by shooting, right? So when I talk about this, I am extremely honest with you. I am not sugarcoating it. One of my worst rentals that we ever bought, surprisingly enough, was in a decent neighborhood, the best schools in the area, and but right behind it was Section 8 homes that the landlord, I wouldn't even call it Section 8, it was low income, high crime homes, right? They rent to anybody for $200, $250 a month. There was 2 apartments down there, a lot of duplexes that was trash, and landlords trying to get them off their hands. Essentially, there was a lot of problems going with these particular properties, and I ended up buying this particular house on a good street, but just right behind my backyard, it became a war zone. So we was a victim to a drive-by shooting, and that same week, we was a victim of a break-in on that same particular property. You know what happened? I owned that property. You know what happened when the house got shot up? We had to replace some things. What happened when the tenants, not the tenants, but somebody broke into the house? The tenants jumped ship. Right, they were there because it was great schools. That's the only reason they were there, and it's good property. Now the school district means nothing because our life is on the line, right? So that's how your particular tenant is going to be thinking. So yeah, it could be a decent property. Yeah, it can look good, but do you actually want to own it? You want to make sure you vet everything out. Now, I'm not saying every part of Dallas is bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. But when you get to the war zones, and we all know what those look like, when you get there, you got to be very strategic about what you want to do. You want to do a short-term fix and flip. You want to do a buy and hold. There's some slumlords out there, but from my perspective, it's less of a headache to deal with a slumlord or a problem like that, especially if you got property management taking care of the property. You want to make sure you're either in and out with the fix and flip, and even then, you still want to make sure you supply yourself with some things like a video camera. You supply yourself with a lockbox. You supply yourself with a cage to go over your AC unit, because if not, in rougher areas, they will end up gone. You'll just come to it and they're gone. I got a property right now that was sitting vacant. Somebody busting the back door. This was in the good neighborhood. They busted the back door and stole some light fixtures, right? So there are some things that can happen. I don't care what industry, what area you're in, but ultimately I just want to talk about these particular issues because they're hot topics right now. And obviously, when the times are good, you necessarily don't see it, right? You don't necessarily, when crime is not as bad, you really don't see the need to owner finance that particular property out. But you're owner financing for times like this, times where there's a war zone. And that's what you don't want, that you don't want to hold property that's in a war zone, because essentially it's going to delay the depreciation of the area. Now, lucky for us, it is one of the more appreciative, affordable areas in DFW. But with that being said, that's what you got to think about. Exit strategies, exit strategies, extra strategies. If you don't have them, you'll end up owning some property there. But if you do have them, you'll end up getting rid of that property or giving it to somebody else. And if they ever go sour on a note, that's when you own it again. Then you get back in there and do what you need to do. But essentially, at least you got a down payment. You didn't really fix it up. They bought it as is. They're going to put their money into the particular property, and they're going to have their own home ownership, and they can own that particular home, and you can be the bank, right? And that's a great business model. Why not be the bank? Whenever you're modeling your business after somebody has vaulted ceilings and marble floors, they probably make money, right? So with that being said, being a bank is not a bad thing, especially in war zones. So I just wanted to come with you guys and talk to you guys about that. Obviously, I live in Dallas. I understand what's going on. But just owning properties and having a history of owning properties in these war zones, it can be a complete nightmare for a real estate investor, because that's your particular property you're responsible for. So anything happens to it, that's on you, regardless if it was your fault or not, right? That's on you. So just make sure you have the extra strategies. I just wanted to have a quick chat about that. Don't want to take up too much of your time. Hey, definitely let me know your comments on that. And I want to hear back from you, right? I want to hear back from you. Make sure you do that. But until then, keep winning. Let's go.